All right, it is what it is. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to part 4 of our study of what it's like to be a Jew. Um, Before we begin our study this morning, let's go to the Lord in prayer and ask His blessing on this session. Thank you, Abba, for the word, your word, and the time that you've given us to gather together in fellowship in your word. We ask that your Spirit open our minds and our hearts to the things we'll see this morning, that they might be a source of blessing and challenge. For we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we begin part 4, and we're going to begin with the subject of obedience, but we're going to take a little side trip. We wrapped up our last session by considering the main points of Sabbath observance and kosher laws to understand their influence on Jewish life. We didn't cover every detail of this that we could have covered. Trust me, there's a lot more there, but I didn't want to turn this into a monster study that we got caught up in minutia. In this session, we're going to move to explore other aspects of Jewish life and how they impact the lives of Jews. But before we proceed, I want to clarify a point that was raised during our discussion period last session. As we all know, laws and rules are created to be followed, usually for the overall betterment of society or the safety of its citizens. Our highways have speed limits to protect us. Are they always obeyed? Well, take a short trip in just a few miles, and I guarantee you'll see at least one person speeding, probably you, and likely by a significant margin. Apply that observation to Christians and our spiritual walk. We're called to walk in the Spirit, but do we always do so? Of course not. That's one reason God set up 1 John 1:9. We try and we sometimes succeed, but eventually we disobey the rules and fall into some moral failure. Regarding the Jews and their observance of all these rules for living life, many follow them strictly. Some believe they do, but they actually cheat. Others don't even try, much like many Christians, including those who consider themselves observant. In the Gospels, especially Matthew, for example, showed that those who strictly follow these rules, like the Pharisees and the scribes, often become very arrogant and judgmental. These rules for life are originally divinely inspired in the Torah. We see them first in Genesis, and they're expanded upon in Deuteronomy and in Leviticus. However, the rules are very broad and lack detail. Then came the oral Torah and the Mishnah, which are commentaries that provided structure and detail to the rules, meat on the bones, so to speak. Were these additional rabbinical rulings divinely inspired? Some as simple elaborations on the original were, I'm sure, but others perhaps not. My point is that rules exist and are followed by imperfect people with sinful natures. Therefore, we can expect, but never fully achieve 100% compliance. That isn't an excuse for breaking the rules, but rather a reality of living in a fallen world. Let's talk about the family. Rabbi Danin, the author of the book that most of this material is coming from, views the family as key to leading an obedient and prosperous life. He introduces the topic like this: the family is the core of Jewish society and a center of its religious life. If the home is strong in Jewish values, stable and healthy, then all Jewish life and its institutions, religious, educational, social, etc., will be alive and vibrant. And if the home is weak emotionally, morally, and spiritually, all else will soon mirror that weakness. The religious laws pertaining to family life therefore occupy a major part of Jewish religious codes. These cover every aspect of Jewish life from its outward appearances to its most intimate relationships. Forgive me. Rabbi Danin believes these are based on the following foundations as the core examples of Jewish laws in this area. Respect for each individual's integrities and feelings as a human being within the family. Fostering a peaceful and harmonious relationship among all household members. Recognition and acceptance of each family member's different roles. Maintaining spiritual purity and a wholesome attitude in sexual relationships between the husband and the wife, as well as between men and women in general. Unfortunately, many Jews today are unaware of the idea of holiness embedded in Jewish tradition. The Jewish ideal aims to elevate both the individual and society, fostering happiness and meaningful living for the greatest number. Judaism has never intended for people to find happiness by satisfying intimate desires or physical urges at the expense of higher values. Allowing unrestricted gratification is seen as crude and vulgar, and surrender to human weaknesses, reducing the human being to the level of an animal. Unfortunately, in modern times, we see increasing failures in Jewish families because these laws are less widely observed. Husband and wife relationships. Jewish tradition acknowledges that having children is a main goal of the family. And Genesis 9:7 says, "And you be fruitful and multiply, increasing greatly in the earth and multiplying in it." It fulfills the divine purpose and makes us partners with the Almighty in the ongoing process of creation. Some Jewish authorities say the minimum number of children is two. Others say at least one of each sex. Marriage has its own validity beyond just procreation. Probably the most important aspect is its sanctity. Genesis 2:18, when the Lord said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make a helper for him." This was said before the Genesis 9:7, which I just quoted above, and its command to be fruitful and multiply. This call to fellowship, to help one another, is presented as the first and main purpose of marriage. There is no greater blessing than to go through life with a companion whose skills and talents complement your own. And I'm finding that out right now. Both the Old Testament and the New Testament strongly condemn all forms of lewdness, harlotry, promiscuity, adultery. They also condemn incestuous sexual unions, homosexuality, and sodomy as abominable. However, the Bible speaks highly of the beauty of a man and a woman in the sanctified union of marriage. Even in Jewish marriages, there are times when sexual relations are forbidden, such as when the wife begins her menstrual period until the end of her quote, clean days following menstruation. Usually this period lasts about 12 days, during which the woman is in what's called a state of separation or nida. During this time, she's forbidden to her husband. Several possibilities have been suggested for this. One is to develop self-discipline for those moments when passions and urges overpower reason. The Jewish concept of holiness requires such strength. Or it could be considerations for the wife, including her emotional state or physical condition. This separation reduces boredom and routine at home and keeps the honeymoon romance and tenderness alive. Each month brings a fresh sense of expectation and excitement. Each partner is allowed to rest without feeling guilty. The end of the period involves a ritual bath for the wife, which is called a mikvah. And that's a Jewish purification bath. When the temple was still standing, the priest also took a mikvah before performing their duties. Converts to Judaism also participate in the mikvah ceremony as a sign of spiritual cleansing. Prior to the ritual mikvah, the woman will take a bath to remove any dirt or bodily oils. The ritual mikvah then follows shortly after. While it is recognized that a mikvah offers hygienic and medical advantages, its main purpose is spiritual. As Christians, we might see this ritual as symbolizing the washing away of our sins at the cross. When physically and ceremonially cleansed spiritually, the wife returns to her husband. Jewish family life cannot take place without a mikvah in the community. It can proceed without a synagogue, but the mikvah is essential. In modern Israel, when a kibbutz is established, the mikvah is built first, followed by the synagogue. All right, about honoring parents. Exodus 20:12 tells us, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land and that the Lord your God is giving you. And then Leviticus 19:3, every one of you shall revere his mother and his father. You might recognize this as one of the 10 Commandments, specifically number 4. Showing disrespect to parents is equivalent to disrespecting God. Exodus 20:12 makes it clear that honoring your parents with proper respect will lead to blessings. And some general principles for guidance. The father and the mother, they disagree on what is in the Torah, then it's the wishes of the Father in heaven to take priority, for he is also their father and deserves their respect. That's logical, right? Even if a parent ignores the Torah, a son or daughter must never speak to that parent angrily or arrogantly. Anyone who curses a parent or brings shame to one is himself cursed by God. Cursed be anyone who dishonors his father or his mother. And that's from Deuteronomy 27. There's one exception. If the child and parent disagree on something, such as maybe the child wants to go away to study Torah because it's really better, and the parents object, or when the child wants to marry someone of their choice in a manner that is not against religious law, and the parents object, the child is not required to obey their objections. And this next one I'm going to use. Grown children of aging parents have a duty to clothe, feed, shelter, and care for them. You don't see that much anymore. When I was growing up, it was common for a household to have 3 or even more generations, the children, their parents, and an aging grandparent or two. Today, we send Granny off to an assisted living home. She may receive better care, but she loses her family. One is duty bound to honor one's parents, even after their death. Both sons and daughters contribute to charity in memory of the deceased and by living lives that honor those who gave birth to and raised them. It's well known that Judaism emphasizes the importance of education, but less well known is that what Judaism actually means by that. And the Hebrew word for education is hinukah, and it doesn't just refer to formal schooling. The word literally means consecration and involves training a child for life, not merely providing an education. The primary objective is to, one, instill moral and ethical values of the Jewish heritage. Two, actively observe the Torah's commandments. Three, encourage active study of the Torah, the Talmud, and other Jewish sources. And four, create a strong sense of identification with and concern for all Jewish people. Only then is there concern for broad secular training and education to earn a living. Emphasizing the latter at the expense of the former provides only a small part of the total education called for by Jewish tradition. Given their history, it's clear that the 4 points above are not only vital to their culture, but also essential for their survival. All right, about divorce. This was interesting. Like Gentile marriages, there could be conflicts in Jewish marriages. Enough conflict that the couple find living together difficult or even impossible. Of course, conflict is not the only issue that can ruin a marriage. Infidelity and other moral problems can also damage a marriage. The Torah allows for the bonds of marriage to be dissolved through divorce. The Hebrew word for this is get. A religious marriage is considered according to the law of Moses in Israel. It is not dissolved by the state and the degree of some judge, but must be severed as it was established according to the law of Moses in Israel. That said, the state has assumed jurisdiction over it legally because Christianity had no provision for it in its religious statutes. And that's a quote from Donin. Jewish divorce proceedings are carried out by a Jewish court composed of 3 rabbis knowledgeable in the laws of marriage and divorce. The entire process can take as little as an hour and a half, during which the couple is questioned by the court. After the proceedings, a tear is made in the divorce document, signifying that it must never be used again. The woman may not remarry for 92 days. That is to remove any doubt regarding parentage should she conceive right away. This is really interesting. The ceremony of release, and this is found in Deuteronomy 25. If brothers dwell together and one of them dies, has no son, the wife of the dead man shall not be married outside the family to a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her and take her as his wife and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. And the first son whom she bears shall succeed to the name of his dead brother, that his name may not be blotted out of Israel. No. So when the wife becomes widowed or divorced, her brother-in-law is required to marry her in order to produce an heir for the man's name, thereby continuing his line. This practice is called levirate marriage. The brother-in-law can refuse to marry his sister-in-law and exercise his right to decline. In that case, the wife is free to marry someone else. The ceremony formalizing this is rather interesting, and that's found in Deuteronomy 25. And if the man does not wish to take his brother's wife, then the brother's wife shall go up to the gate to the elders and say, my husband, brother, refuses to perpetuate his brother's name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of the husband's brother to me. Then the elders of the city shall call him and speak to him. And if he persists, saying, I do not wish to take her, then the brother's wife shall go up to him in the presence of the elders, pull off his sandal off his foot, and spit in his face. And she shall answer and say, so shall it be done to the man who does not build up his brother's house. And the name of his house shall be called in Israel, the house of him who had his sandals pulled off. Interesting ceremony, right? All right. Abortion and birth control. Interestingly, abortion is permitted under Jewish tradition, specifically therapeutic abortions, and that is those performed to save the mother's life. The stage of pregnancy doesn't matter. Jewish law favors the preserving of the mother's life. The status of the fetus is not equal to that of the mother. Rabbinic authorities agree that abortions of convenience, economic reasons, or other personal motives are strictly forbidden. This rule applies from conception. The fetus is not considered a living soul until birth. However, it is considered potentially alive, and ending that potential is regarded as a serious offense. Opinions vary on this issue. Some rabbinic authorities contend that cases of incest, fetal deformities, and situations where the child might be born with deformities or physical disorders, abortion is allowed, even if the mother's life is not at risk. All right, birth control. As long as families intend to fulfill the command to be fruitful and multiply, managing the spacing of birth is not an issue. There is no objection to the use of the pill, since it does not constitute the destruction of the seed. All right, shifting our subject a little bit to signs of the covenant. As I mentioned earlier, almost everything in Jewish life is meant to remind them that they are special to God and they were chosen for a purpose. That purpose was to serve as a testimony to the entire world. To do this, they had to demonstrate holiness by following the laws of Moses. The Gentile world was supposed to see this special relationship and the blessings that resulted from it and be drawn to it, assuming, of course, the Jews met those divine standards. Because they had to demonstrate this holiness solely through human effort, which put them at a disadvantage, the Lord provided help to remind them of their obligations to Him. Almost everything we've examined so far was meant to make them holy, to show that to the Gentiles and remind them of the duty to be holy. We'll now look at some additional physical items designed for that purpose. The first is what we call the tefillin. You have probably wondered about this. We've seen it on TV and maybe even in real life, Jews wearing a small black square box on their foreheads that is so small it looks almost cartoonish. Some of you might have also noticed the similar black square boxes on their upper arms, held in place by leather straps wrapped around the arm and down to the fingers. These are known as the tefillin, which is translated as phylacteries. There are two small black leather boxes containing parchment scrolls with Torah passages from Exodus and Deuteronomy. And here's what it looks like. The tefillin, the box is attached in the upper arm, and the straps that hold it are wrapped, I think it's 7 times. 1, 2, 3, yeah, around the forearms, and then there's a special knot tied in the hand to hold it. And then we have the tefillin applied to the forehead, and it's worn, as you can see by these illustrations here.
We can't see your illustrations.
You can't see them?
No. You have to share.
They dropped them out. Oh, man.
Let me see if they're at the end.
I'll email the pictures to you.
Okay.
All right. Rats. All right. We need to go back to studying the phylacteries.
Right.
They're worn by observant Jewish men and some women. And during weekday morning prayers, they were strapped on the left arm and forehead as a sign of dedication to God. Some key details about the phylacteries include purpose. They serve as a reminder to keep God's commandments and of the special covenant God made with Israel, close to his heart and mind, in this case, quite literally. The components. The set includes the yad, shield yad, which means arm or one compartment, and shield rosh, which means head or 4 compartments. Their usage they're typically donned by Jewish males after their bar mitzvah, which is age 13. And it's during Wednesday morning services. They're not worn on Sabbath or on holidays. The biblical basis is based on Exodus 13, 1 through 10, 11 through 6, and Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9, and 11, 13 through 21. We'll get to those in just a moment. The significance, the term originates from the Greek phylakterion, meaning safeguard or amulet. The tefillin are made of leather from only kosher animals. 2 straps secure them to the head or arm as appropriate. The straps wrapped around the arm 7 times with specific knots and placement symbolic of a bond between God and the Jewish people. The following passages serve as a foundation for the observing of these 2 distinctive Jewish symbols. All right. Exodus 13:1. Let me get some water. The Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn. Whoever is the first to open the womb among the people of Israel, both men and beasts, is mine." Then Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt and out of the house of slavery, for by strong hand the Lord brought you out of this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today is the month of Abib, and you are going out. And when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten for 7 days. No unleavened bread shall be seen with you, and no leaven shall be seen with you in all of your territory. You shall tell your son on that day, it is because of what the Lord did for me that I came out of Egypt. And it shall be to you a sign on your hand, and as a memorial between your eyes, that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with strong hand the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this statute at its appointed time of the year. And then in Exodus 13, when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and shall give it to you, you shall set apart to the Lord all that the first opens the womb. All the firstborn of your animals that are males shall be the Lord's. Every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. Or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. Every firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem. And when in time to come your son asks you, what's this mean? You shall say to him, by a strong hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of slavery. For when the Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord killed all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of animals. Therefore, I sacrifice to the Lord all the males that first open the womb, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall be as a mark on your hand and frontlets between your eyes, for by a strong hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. And then in Deuteronomy 6, we hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk to them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And then lastly, Deuteronomy 11. And if you will indeed obey my commandments that I command you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart, with all your soul, he will give the rain of your land in its seasons, the early rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your grain and your wine and your oil. And he will give grass in the fields for your livestock, and you shall eat and be full. Take care lest your heart be deceived and you turn aside to serve other gods and worship them. Then the anger of the Lord shall be kindled against you, and he shall shut up the heavens so that there will be no rain, and the land will yield no fruit, and you will perish quickly of the good land that the Lord is giving you. You shall therefore lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall teach them to your children, talking of them when you are sitting in your house, and when you are walking by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and on the gates, and on the doors, and on the days of your children may be multiplied in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to give them, as long as the heavens are above the earth. You can see where this comes from now. Jesus, however, mentions the phylacteries in Matthew 23, and not in a very positive way, where he says, then Jesus said to the crowds and to the disciples, the scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. So do and observe whatever they tell you, but not the works they do. For they preach, but they do not practice. They tie up heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on people's shoulders. But they themselves are not willing to move them with their finger. They do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their phylacteries broad and their fringes long. He accuses the Pharisees of demanding holiness from the people, while their own holiness is merely superficial and for show. And then we have the mezuzah. The mezuzah is similar to the tefillin, and it serves a similar purpose. The mezuzah is the Hollywood Hebrew word for doorpost. It is a small scroll of parchment with two biblical passages written on it, Deuteronomy 6:4 through 9 and 11:13 through 21 that was just seen above, which are also used in the Tefillin. These scrolls are placed in a small container and affixed to the entry doorpost of Jewish homes built for permanent residences. This excludes tents, and they're placed on all entry doors. The mezuzah clearly marks the home as Jewish. For the Jew himself, it serves as a reminder to both himself and his household, and this is a household of divine presence with all the duties to follow his call to holiness as outlined in the Torah. Have you seen some movies that feature Jewish life, especially in the time of Christ? You will often see the males walk through the door, kiss their fingers, and reach up and touch the doorpost. And I think what they're doing is touching the mezuzah. Then we have the tzitzit and the talit. Numbers 15. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the people of Israel and tell them to make tassels and corners of their garments throughout their generations, and to put a cord of blue on the tassel of each corner. And it shall be a tassel for you to look at and remember all the commandments of the Lord, to do them, not to follow after your own heart and your own eyes, which you are inclined to whore after. So you shall remember to do all my commandments and be holy to your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God." The tzitzit are tassels that are attached to four corners of a garment, and that's the talit, which is often used as a shawl like over the head and shoulders. These garments are not required to be worn during the day because they are a tassel for you to look at. The purpose of the tassels is to remember all the commandments of the Lord, to do them and to follow after your own heart and your own eyes, not to follow after your own heart and your own eyes, which you are inclined to whore after. So you shall remember and do all my commandments and be holy to your God. So once again, the Jew is reminded of what he's called to be and not to follow his own heart and his own eyes. The implication of failure is stated in verse 39 that without this reminder, he's likely to let his passions override his obedience and commandments. A devout person will also have a small talit. This four-cornered garment, which fits over the shoulders and covers the shoulders and the back, is usually worn under a shirt. It has the four tassels on the four corners. As you can see, time and time again, the Jew is called to obey the commands of the Torah, to fulfill that calling to holiness. He is surrounded by ritual and physical reminders to do so. The goal is always to portray the Jew as someone with a special relationship with God, and for the Gentile to envy that bond and be drawn to the God of Israel. And that concludes our study for this morning. Sorry about the illustration. I will get that straight out to Annette shortly and she can send it to you. Anybody have any questions or comments? Kind of a complicated life, isn't it?
Yeah. Brother Johnny.
Oh, there you
Lane.
go. Oh, over in a corner. I see you. Go ahead, Brother Johnny.
And I was a little confused
So
about
what?
the widow and the divorce in the same classification with the requirement of the brother-in-law. I can understand the widow because the man is gone, but I am totally bewildered that this same requirement is for a divorce lady. Help me out with that
I have no simple answer for that. The husband can bring the divorce. The wife can have no say in it. And so she is at the mercy of her husband, and it's kind of like he died to her.
one. Okay, that
That's
makes
the best
sense.
way I can understand it.
I'll roll with that one.
Um, I I'm not totally comfortable with that. There may be more to it, but that's about all Doneen spoke about. And Janice is waving her hands down there.
Suppose he can't produce an heir.
That's another point. Suppose he can't produce an heir. That was not mentioned in Dunning's book, or I missed it. But yeah, that's a logical possibility.
Well, as in Africa today, they probably feel like it's not possible for the man not to be able to, and it's always the woman's fault.
Of
In
course.
Africa today, that's my son had told me that it's still anything that happens. The same as if they only have girls, it's the woman's fault, and he might divorce her and try and get boys.
Yeah, I found it interesting, Wayne, that they are to have concerns for Jews only. That seems to be contradictive of why God put the Jewish people there in the first place. They were go
Right.
out and preach the world, God. That was the purpose. But
Yeah.
here in their own laws or rules, they only have concerns for their own Jewish people, nobody else. I found that odd, that it seems contradicted to what God really wanted the Israelites to do.
I clarify that.
Well, you had, I think, on like page 3, they are to be concerned for only Jews. Their concern is for only Jews when it comes to their. Let me see if I can find it. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go down. Keep going down. It was like the very last thing. No, it was the parent. Go up. Keep going. Oh,
With parents, the parent section.
yeah, it may have been. I don't know where it was. Keep going down. It was what? It's like 4 points like this. Keep going. Keep going. Oh,
That's marriage.
okay. Keep going. Oh, all right. Keep going. Children. Okay, here. Say encourage the activity. No, that's not it. Oh,
Create-
there, very 4. Create a strong sense of identification with and concerns for all Jewish people.
Okay, so what's your point?
He means for why not for all people.
Why not for all people? I mean, weren't they put here in order to spread God's goodness to the world?
Yes, that's true.
So that was my question, is this seems to be contradictive to why they were here in the first place. But anyway, that was my only point there. No big
My,
deal. Okay.
my thought as I was writing that was um, this is Rabbi Doneen's thoughts, his explanation of this, and that the context I saw was survival of the Jewish people.
Mhm.
Yeah, the other thing I found interesting is, you know, in Genesis 9:7, when it says multiply and be fruitful, I think that is physical, but I think we miss it too. I also think that's God saying spiritually.
Of course.
They are to go out to the world with God's message, which they did not do. So I think it's a double fold there, yet many times you never hear anything from commentary except that just means have a bunch of kids. And I look at it and say, well, I think that's there, but I think it's also go out and preach God's word to the
Mhm.
world. Again, looking at it in a very different way, not saying it's right.
No, I think you make a very, very valid point there. That be fruitful means be productive.
Mhm.
And it's not just physically productive, I don't think. I agree with you.
Yeah. The other thing that I continue to struggle with is, and I say this delicately, I'm not saying the Jews were not God's people, but when you look at the progression from what is a Hebrew to what is an Israelite to what is a Jew to what is a Christian, you see God's people having different progressions along the way. And then when you get into Matthew, and Jesus basically talks about the vineyard and the leasing it out to tenants, and they kill the servants that come back, and then he sends his son, and they kill the son. He says, this kingdom will be taken away from you and will be given to another people who will bear fruit. So Jesus clearly says, this is going to be taken away from you. Now, God's not done with Israel. So I'm not trying to say replacement theology at all. It's clear that Jesus says the kingdom's going to be taken away from you. And so I find that interesting where we still have an issue with God's chosen people as Jews. His
Uh,
chosen nation is Israel, no
I
question.
mean, I'm not understanding part of what you're clarify for me what was meant by their kingdom being taken away from them. What happened? What was that? What was he telling them?
That was the kingdom of heaven being taken away from them. And what they have today is being taken away and given to another people that will provide fruit.
Who's the other people?
It's Jews and Gentiles who believe in Jesus Christ.
Okay.
So it's both. It's a new group that will bear fruit.
Hmm.
It's in Matthew 23, and we covered
Right.
it. It's
I'm in total
confusing.
agreement with you.
Yeah,
I wasn't clear where that was going. Go ahead, brother Johnny.
yeah. Bail us out, brother.
I hope I'm not digging a deeper hole. So we know Paul is clear on this issue, and the way I understand it in a nutshell is that the whatever God intended for the Jews is still the root, and we are grafted in to that tree, and it grows, but eventually the the rest would be grafted back in based on what we know understand in the Bible. That's pretty clear. So it's following his design plan. There's still the root. The kingdom is still the kingdom of heaven is still rooted on the Jewish faith, period. You know, as because Jesus is a Jew, you know, it's given to the kingdom of David. There's no question about that. And we are grafted in by faith. And we are just growing with that one tree. You know, there's only one tree, the tree of life, and that's Jesus Christ. And it's just following a plan, right? But the remnant will always be here and possess whatever promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That hasn't changed at all. The last time I checked, Peter, James, John, Paul, the teaching of the apostles and the Gospel of Acts. And to me, none of that has changed at all. The only thing that changes is the way we look at it. We can't put a brush on these things. You know what I mean? But that's just my broad view.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. What I struggle with when you say that is I'm taking Jesus's words, and he said, "Surely I tell you, you will not see me again until, not unless, until you call and say, Blessed is he who came in the name of the Lord." Until they accept the Messiah, then they're grafted back in, Brother Johnny. They're out until they accept the Messiah. So I don't think they're in until they accept God. So that's just my point. They're not excluded, but they're not accepted automatically because they're Jew. They have to come to the Messiah, just like we have to come to Messiah. So I don't see them separate. I think we're all one. And
that's
so
pretty
that's
much
my
what I said, Dave. But who was Jesus talking to is the whole context of it, right? They haven't been cast away according when you get to Paul's letter. They have not been cast away. So Jesus was specific and 100% on as a nation. I just can't I can't grab around in my mind how if you tear away the root, the tree will die. Period. So he was talking to a certain set of people who he knew were going to be failures. And once everybody in the world try to kill him, he gonna show up again. I just see the progression. I don't see the root being affected, the remnant of Christ being affected at all, because he only spares most of those people anyway because of the ones that actually hear and obey. Period. Just like us.
Well, we know in Zechariah that one half will die. Again, we know that 2/3 of the world will be cut off. So now we're down to 1/6 of the Jewish population, not 1/3. So again, my point here is I'm still confused about this process. And when I hear that term, it just brings up that confusion. But I kind of respectfully look at Jesus as our root, not the Jewish people. Jesus is Jew. Peter was Jew. John was Jew. There's no question the biggest person I love is a Jew. That's Jesus Christ. So it's not anti-Semitism at all. I mean, the point I'm trying to make here is Jesus is our new root. He's the sprout off of Jesse's, root, and he is our root. It's not the Jewish people. Now, this has nothing to do with the nation of Israel. So I want to make sure it's clear. I'm separating the nation of Israel from the Jewish people, two different things. So I don't want to mix those up.
Okay.
Again, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying I struggle with it. That's all.
Let me explain it one other different way, right? So when I see Christian, I see Jew and Gentile, period.
I agree.
When I see race, I still don't see but one race, and that's the sons that came out of Adam. When I see anything different, if I look at a person the first time and I see his race, the issue is not them, the issue is me. It's only when you speak and the only way you act should determine. Ism means division. It means separation. I just can't see the body of Christ being different from Jews and Gentile as Christian, because the Bible specifically says it's Jew and Gentile. I'm not any different from you. Believe me, I'm totally in total agreement with you when it comes to understanding the land and all. I'm 100% with you, but I just see if there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth, I am not worried about the land at all. You know what I mean? If it's
And
all new and has to dissolve,
I agree with
that's
you there. I'm not talking about the new heaven and new earth. I'm talking about the millennium.
I know, I
So
know.
I'm talking about
I
the 1,000 years. That's what I'm talking about. The land is on. So not the new heaven
You
and
and
new
I
earth.
are in the same camp because I'm still struggling of trying to explain to a Christian taking his life lightly and having all of these excuses, not excuses. It's the way you live your life in a loose way to thinking that you can rule anything in the millennium. It doesn't. And most people say, well, when we get caught up, then Jesus will kind of get us all straight, doing why the tribulation is going on, and then you will be able to rule. I'm saying that's so unrighteous that I'm through. I'm done for the day.
I'm done.
I agree with that last statement. One of the things that has challenged me in this study is God put all these rules on them and they were expected to follow them. And I think about us as Christians, and in reality, we have a lot of rules on us too. And I think we're doing a really poor job generally in following. Anyway, we're starting to split hairs now. So let's shut this down. Thank you
All right.
everyone for being here and thank you for your participation. And I hope we all eventually get something out of this, one way or the other, good, bad, or indifferent. Let's close with a prayer. Thank you, Abba, for this time that you've given us in your word, and for thank you especially for all the marvelous things you left there, and for us to discuss and attempt to understand you and your mind and your desires for us as your children. Help us as we go through this week that we might be witnesses for you in Satan's world. For we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.